Commander James Stone stared through the massive window of the Galactic Council's orbital station, his weathered face reflecting off the reinforced glass. Below him, the peaceful world of New Haven glowed a sickly purple, a color that shouldn't have been there. The quarantine beacons pulsed their warning lights in orbit, creating a web of red dots around the planet. "How many more?" he asked, his voice heavy with concern. The alien standing beside him, Ambassador Real, shifted uncomfortably. His crystalline body structure caught the starlight, sending rainbow patterns across the floor. 3 more worlds reported infections this morning. The plague spreads faster than our containment measures. James ran his fingers through his gray hair, a habit from his military days. 20 years of serving as humanity's representative to the Galactic Council hadn't prepared him for this crisis. The plague had appeared 3 weeks ago, starting on the agricultural world of Greenhaven. Now it had spread to 11 worlds. "Show me the latest readings," James said, turning to face the holographic display. The numbers floating in the air made his stomach turn. Death rates were climbing, and the sophisticated medical technology of the Council races seemed useless against this threat. But something about the data caught his eye. "Wait," he said, pointing to a particular set of numbers. "The atmospheric composition after infection. These readings look familiar." Ambassador Real's crystalline form vibrated in surprise. "Familiar? How?" "They're similar to some of Earth's most polluted regions during our industrial age," James explained, his mind racing. "We adapted to survive in those conditions. Our bodies developed ways to filter toxins that would kill most species." The council chamber doors slid open with a soft hiss. 6 more ambassadors hurried in, their various forms representing the diversity of galactic life. Some floated, others crawled, and a few walked on multiple legs. But none of them came from worlds as harsh as Earth. "The Ravagers have claimed responsibility," announced Ambassador Tech, his gas-filled body glowing with agitation. "They say this is only the beginning." The chamber erupted in worried voices. The Ravagers were a mysterious species that had appeared at the edges of Council space 2 years ago. Until now, they had only launched small raids on outlying colonies. James studied the new data scrolling across the holographic display. "Has anyone been able to enter the infected zones?" he asked. "Impossible," Ambassador Real replied. "The atmospheric changes are too severe. Even our best environmental suits fail within minutes. The crystals in my body would shatter in those conditions." A thought struck James. What if we didn't need suits? All eyes in the room turned to him. Humans, we evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. High gravity, extreme temperatures, natural disasters, predators, diseases. Our bodies adapted to handle almost anything. You're suggesting sending humans into the infected zones? Ambassador Tech's glow pulsed with surprise. "But your species, you're still seen as dangerous by many. Some council members still want restrictions on human expansion." James stood straighter, his 6-foot frame towering over most of the ambassadors. "Maybe it's time to see our dangerous nature as an asset. We're not just warriors. We're survivors, problem solvers. We adapted to overcome every challenge Earth threw at us. Now we can use those adaptations to help others." The chamber fell silent. James could see the conflict in their reactions. Fear of humanity's potential mixing with desperate need for a solution. Finally, Ambassador Real spoke. "I will support this proposal. We've always feared what humans could do. Perhaps it's time to see what humans can do for others." James nodded, already planning in his head. "I'll contact Earth immediately. We'll need our best emergency responders, scientists, and military personnel. And we'll need them fast." As he turned to leave the chamber, he caught his reflection again in the window. Behind him, New Haven's purple glow seemed to dim slightly, as if responding to the first real hope since the crisis began. Humanity was about to show the galaxy that being from a death world meant more than being good at fighting. It meant being able to save lives where others couldn't even survive. The old video played on the council chamber's main screen. showing humanity's first contact 50 years ago. James Stone watched with a mix of pride and amusement as the alien scout ship landed in the middle of the Australian outback, right in the middle of a Category 4 dust storm. "We thought our instruments were broken," Ambassador Reel said, his crystalline form reflecting the video's light. No intelligent life could evolve in such conditions. The footage showed the scout ship's sensors displaying Earth's details: gravity 1.3 times galactic standard, atmospheric pressure far above safe levels, extreme temperature variations, thousands of venomous species, and regular natural disasters. Class 12 Death World, James said, remembering the classification Earth had received. Only the third one ever discovered with intelligent life. The video shifted to the first meeting. The alien delegation, wrapped in protective suits, watched in horror as human children played soccer in 104 degrees Fahrenheit, 40 degrees Celsius, heat. Their sensors showed radiation from the sun that would kill most council species within hours, yet humans had adapted to it, even enjoyed it. "Tell me, Commander," Ambassador Tech floated closer, his gas form swirling with curiosity. "How did your people survive such conditions?" James walked to the window, looking out at the quarantine planet below. "We adapted. Had to. Earth never made it easy." He pointed to his arm. "Our bones are denser because of the gravity. Our skin can handle radiation that would kill most species. Our bodies can process toxins that would poison entire worlds." The video showed more scenes: humans diving in crushing ocean depths, climbing mountains in thin air, surviving in deserts and frozen wastelands. Each image made the assembled aliens shift uncomfortably. When the first humans stepped onto a council world, Ambassador Reel said, they had to wear gravity-decreasing suits to avoid damaging our buildings. "Your footsteps would crack our floors." James smiled. "We've learned to be gentle since then. But yes, what you saw as disadvantages, what made Earth a death world, gave us strengths you're only now beginning to understand." A new image appeared on the screen. Current footage from New Haven. The purple haze had spread to cover half the planet. "Our scientists analyzed the plague's effects," Ambassador Tech said. "The atmospheric changes match conditions found in Earth's most polluted regions during your industrial age." "Exactly." James turned to face the council. "What nearly killed your people, we survived for generations. Our bodies adapted. We cleaned our world, but we kept those adaptations." The chamber doors opened as more data streamed in. 3 more worlds had reported first-stage infection. The plague was spreading faster. "We feared you when we first met your kind," a new voice spoke. Ambassador Lin, her floating form made of pure energy, moved forward. "Your strength, your resilience, your ability to survive. We saw them as marks of a dangerous species." James watched the latest numbers scroll past. "You weren't wrong. We are dangerous. But that's because Earth taught us something else, something beyond physical strength." He faced the assembled council. "Earth taught us to protect what matters. When everything around you can kill you, you learn to protect each other. You learn to solve problems, to adapt, to save lives." The video feed switched to live footage from Earth. Emergency teams loading equipment, scientists reviewing data, ships being prepared for launch. Humanity was mobilizing. 50 years ago, you feared what we were," James said, his voice firm. "Today, that same strength might be the only thing that can save your worlds." Ambassador Reel moved to James's side, his crystalline form humming with determination. "The Council will provide whatever resources you need. Your people's evolution on a death world is no longer a mark of concern. It is our greatest hope." James nodded, watching the preparations on Earth continue. What had once made humanity outcasts would now make them saviors. Earth's harsh lessons were about to pay off in ways no one could have imagined. The time had come for the galaxy to see that surviving a death world meant more than just being tough. It meant being exactly what they needed. Kate Miller checked her basic environmental suit one last time. Unlike the complex protective gear used by Council species, human suits were simple, just enough to monitor vital signs and maintain communications. They didn't need more. Their bodies could handle the rest. Landing in 2 minutes, the pilot announced. Their ship descended through New Haven's purple atmosphere, heading toward what used to be the capital city. Kate looked at her team. 20 humans, all specially selected from Earth's emergency services. They had rescue workers who had pulled people from burning buildings, doctors who had treated patients in war zones, and engineers who had fixed deep-sea structures under crushing pressure. "Remember," Kate said, her voice calm despite the tension, "we're not here to fight. We're here to save lives." The ship's sensors beeped warnings about the toxic atmosphere outside. To the Council races, the air was deadly poison. To humans, it was just another bad day in an industrial city. They landed in what used to be the city center. The purple haze hung thick in the air, making visibility poor. Buildings stood empty, their crystalline structures reflecting the dim light. "Readings match old Earth levels," one of the team members said, checking his instruments. "Like London during the Great Smog of 1952. Nothing we haven't handled before." Kate stepped out first. Her boots crunched on the ground, now covered in a strange purple dust. The team spread out, their training kicking in. Each member knew their job. Search, rescue, gather data. "Movement detected," called out Mark, their sensor specialist. 300 meters north. Life signs weak but present. They found the first survivors in an underground shelter. Local aliens, their crystalline bodies dulled by the toxic atmosphere. They stared at the humans in shock, unable to believe anyone could walk through the poisoned air. "It's okay," Kate said, letting the translator convert her words. "We're here to help. Earth sent us." The rescue operation moved quickly. Where Council rescue teams had failed within minutes, the humans worked for hours. Their bodies processed the toxins, adapted to the heavy metals in the air, kept going even as the purple haze grew thicker. "Control, this is Miller," Kate reported back to the orbital station. "First group of survivors secured. Moving to Sector 2. Above in the station, Commander Stone watched the operation with the Council members. The aliens couldn't hide their amazement as they watched humans do what their best technology couldn't. "Remarkable," Ambassador Reel said. "The toxins that kill our people, your team's bodies are actually becoming more efficient at processing them." "That's what we do," James replied. "We adapt. Every poison, every harsh condition. They just make us stronger." Hour after hour, the team pushed deeper into the city. They found more survivors, gathered crucial data about the plague, and showed what humans could really do. Their bodies didn't just survive the conditions, they thrived in them. "Team, we got a critical situation," Kate's voice crackled over the comm. "Structure collapse in Sector 4. Multiple survivors trapped." The video feed showed Kate and her team racing to a fallen building. The toxic atmosphere had weakened its crystal structure, causing it to cave in. Council teams would have needed heavy machinery, but the humans had something better: their natural strength and the higher gravity of Earth. They lifted debris that would have crushed most alien species. They crawled through spaces that would have killed others with toxic exposure. One by one, they'd brought out survivors, their bodies pushing past normal limits. By the time they finished, even the most skeptical Council members watched in silent respect. "Control, Sector 4 clear," Kate reported, her voice tired but proud. "All survivors accounted for. Permission to push into Sector 5. James looked at the Council members, saw the change in their faces. The fear of humanity's deathworld nature had been replaced by something else: hope. "Permission granted," he said. "Show them what Earth taught us about saving lives." The humans pressed on, their bodies getting stronger with each challenge. They weren't just surviving anymore. They were proving that being born on a death world had prepared them for exactly this moment. They were becoming more than warriors. They were becoming saviors. Tom Wilson hunched over his microscope in the orbital station's lab, his eyes red from hours of studying plague samples. Around him, screens displayed data from a dozen infected worlds. Something about the plague's pattern had been bothering him since they first found it. "You should rest," Commander Stone said, entering the lab with a cup of coffee. "You've been at this for 18 hours straight." Tom took the coffee but didn't look up. "Can't. Not yet. There's something here, something familiar." He pointed to one of the screens. "Look at how the plague adapts to each world. It's not random. It's following a pattern I've seen before." James leaned closer to the screen. "Where?" "Earth." Tom finally looked up, his face serious. "This plague. It's using Earth-based adaptations. The way it changes the atmosphere, how it processes different environments. It's copying what happened on Earth during our industrial age." The door slid open as Ambassador Reel entered, his crystal form dimmed with concern. "Commander Stone, we have a problem. 3 council members are demanding an emergency session. They're suggesting humans might be behind the plague." James straightened, his face hardening. "What?" "The similarities are too close." The ambassador's crystal form flickered. "Some believe only humans could create something that mirrors Earth's conditions so perfectly." Tom stood up suddenly, knocking over his chair. "No, they're wrong. Look at this." He pulled up new data on the main screen. "I found traces of genetic manipulation. This plague wasn't created by humans. It was created by someone studying Earth's history. Someone who took our adaptations and weaponized them." The lab's lights dimmed as emergency alerts flashed. A new holographic image appeared. A massive ship emerging from hyperspace near one of the infected worlds. Its design was unlike anything the Council had seen before. "Ravager's ship," James said, his voice low. "Biggest one yet." Tom's fingers flew over the controls, analyzing new data. "Commander, I'm picking up readings from their ship. The atmospheric composition inside. It's identical to Earth's worst pollution periods. They're Deathworlders, like us, but they've modified themselves, made themselves even more extreme." Ambassador Reel's crystal form pulsed with surprise. "Another Deathworld species, but we've only found 3 in the galaxy's history. They're not natural Deathworlders," Tom said, understanding dawning on his face. "They've engineered themselves, used Earth's evolutionary history as a template. They're trying to become like us, but they're doing it artificially." James watched the Ravager ship through the lab's window. Why attack peaceful worlds? Why spread a plague that creates Deathworld conditions? "Because they're testing us," Tom replied, pulling up more data. "Look at the infection pattern. Every world they hit, they're watching how we respond. They're studying how natural Deathworlders handle these conditions." The lab fell silent as the implications sank in. The Ravagers hadn't just been attacking. They'd been learning, observing how humanity's natural adaptations worked. "Commander," Tom said, his voice urgent, "I can create a counteragent. The plague follows Earth patterns, which means we already know how to beat it. Our bodies learned these lessons over millions of years. Their artificial adaptations can't match that." James nodded, already moving toward the door. "Do it. Ambassador, we need to call an emergency council session. They need to know what we're really facing." "And the accusations against humans?" Ambassador Reel asked. "We'll have to wait," James replied. "Right now, we need to show the Council that there's a difference between being born on a Deathworld and trying to copy its power. One makes you strong. The other makes you dangerous." As they left the lab, Tom turned back to his work with renewed purpose. The Ravagers had studied Earth's history, tried to steal its power, but they had missed the most important lesson. True Deathworld adaptation wasn't just about surviving harsh conditions. It was about learning from them. And humanity had spent millions of years learning those lessons the hard way. Alex Rivera stared at the emergency alerts flashing across his screen. 5 new worlds had just reported plague outbreaks. The Ravagers were no longer testing. They were launching a full attack. Status report. Commander Stone's voice crackled over the comm system. The orbital station's command center was chaos as reports flooded in from all sectors. New Haven team holding steady. Kate Miller reported from the surface. But we're stretched thin. Can't handle another crisis. Understood. James looked at the galactic map, now covered in purple warning signals. Alex, what's the situation on Terra Prime? Alex checked his readings. As a former deep-sea installation engineer, he was used to handling multiple crises at once. Not good, Commander. Their underground shelters are failing. Atmospheric pressures building up faster than predicted. We need to split up, James decided, his face grim. Alex, take Team 2 to Terra Prime. Kate, keep working on New Haven. The rest of our teams will spread out to the new infection sites. The human emergency teams mobilized quickly. Years of handling Earth's natural disasters had taught them how to move fast, adapt quickly, and work under impossible pressure. Alex's ship cut through space toward Terra Prime, carrying 15 of Earth's best crisis responders. Like him, they were all specialists in extreme environments. They had to be. Terra Prime's underground cities weren't built to handle Deathworld conditions. Approaching Terra Prime, the pilot announced. Atmosphere at toxic levels and rising. Alex checked his basic suit one last time. Remember, people, this isn't just about being strong. We need to think, adapt, solve problems, just like Earth taught us. They landed near a main access shaft. The planet's surface was already covered in the purple haze, but underground was where the real crisis waited. Millions of aliens had taken shelter in the subterranean cities, but now those shelters were becoming death traps. Pressure readings critical in sectors 3 through 7, one of Alex's team reported. Structures not designed for this kind of stress. Alex had seen this before, in the deep-sea installations back on Earth. They built these cities assuming stable conditions, never planned for Deathworld pressure changes. They descended into the underground city. The crystalline walls were already showing cracks from the increasing pressure. Council engineers had evacuated hours ago, unable to handle the toxic atmosphere that was seeping in. Team 1, take the eastern sectors, Alex ordered. Team 2, with me to the main pressure controls. We need to vent this atmosphere before it crushes the entire city. The humans split up, moving through corridors that were quickly becoming as dangerous as Earth's deepest ocean trenches. Their bodies, evolved to handle crushing pressures, kept working where others had failed. Alex, a voice called over the comm. We've got structural collapse in Sector 5. 20 civilians trapped. We're routing. Alex responded, already changing direction. Then another call came in. Central cooling system failing in Sector 8. Toxic gas buildup in the residential zones. The calls kept coming. Each one a crisis that would have overwhelmed normal rescue teams. But these weren't normal rescuers. These were humans, shaped by Earth's harshest conditions. They worked for hours, pushing their bodies to limits that would have killed other species. 2 team members were injured when a wall collapsed, but they kept working. Another was exposed to concentrated toxins, but adapted and continued his mission. Commander, Alex reported between rescue operations. We're holding on, but barely. How are the other teams doing? James's voice was heavy when he responded. We lost contact with the team on New Eden. Kate's group is reporting casualties on New Haven. The Ravagers, they're learning from each crisis, making the plague stronger. Alex watched his team pull more survivors from a collapsed section. They were winning these battles, but the war was far from over. The Ravagers had studied Earth's history, but they had missed its most important lesson. True strength wasn't just about surviving. It was about never giving up, no matter the cost. And that was a lesson humanity had learned long ago, on a death world called Earth. Commander James Stone stood on the bridge of the Earth ship Hope, staring at the massive Ravager base hidden in the asteroid field. After weeks of following plague infection patterns, they had finally found it. The purple haze that had destroyed so many worlds was being manufactured here. All teams in position. Kate Miller reported from her rescue ship. She had survived New Haven, stronger for the experience. Pressure systems ready. Alex Rivera added from his vessel. His team had saved millions on Terra Prime, and now they were ready for one last mission. Science team standing by. Tom Wilson confirmed from his lab station. The counteragent is ready. We just need to get it into their atmospheric systems. James took a deep breath. Around him, the combined fleet of human ships waited for his signal. No council ships could join them. The Ravagers had surrounded their base with artificial Deathworld conditions that only humans could survive. They've spotted us, an officer reported. Ravager ships launching. The enemy vessels emerged from the asteroid field, their hulls gleaming with strange purple metals. The ships were organic-looking, adapted to survive extreme conditions, just like their creators. Remember, James spoke to all channels. They copied Earth's harshness, but they don't understand Earth's lessons. They think being strong is enough. We know better. The battle began. Ravager ships moved with incredible speed, their weapons releasing clouds of purple poison. But the human fleet was ready. Their ships, designed by people who had survived Earth's worst disasters, held firm. They're using our own history against us. Tom's voice came through. Those weapons, they're based on Earth's worst industrial pollutants. Then let's show them what Earth taught us about cleaning up our messes, James ordered. The human fleet split into teams, just as they had done during the rescue operations. Some ships engaged the Ravagers directly, while others protected the science vessels. They weren't just fighting. They were executing a plan generations in the making. Alex, take your team through Sector 7, James commanded. Kate, provide cover. Tom, get ready with the counteragent. The Ravagers fought hard, but they had made a crucial mistake. They had studied Earth's harshness, but missed its most important gift, the ability to work together, to adapt not just physically but mentally. We're through their outer defenses, Alex reported, but their base's atmospheric shields are too strong. We can't get the counteragent in. James looked at his console, at the readings from the base. The Ravagers had created a perfect copy of Earth's worst conditions to protect themselves. But that gave him an idea. Tom, he called, you said their adaptations are artificial, right? They copied our resistance to toxins. Yes, but they can't adapt to new conditions quickly like we can. Then that's our advantage. James started moving toward the ship's airlock. They copied our past, but we've evolved beyond that. Commander, what are you doing? Kate's worried voice came through. Their shields are designed to keep Earth-like toxins in, James explained, checking his suit. But I bet they never planned for clean air. Before anyone could stop him, James launched himself from the airlock. Using his suit's thrusters, he moved through the purple haze toward the base's main atmospheric intake. Tom, reverse the counteragent, he ordered. Don't make it fight toxins. Make it create the cleanest air Earth has ever had. Understanding dawned in Tom's voice. The Ravagers engineered themselves to survive pollution. Clean air would be like poison to them now. James reached the intake, his suit's systems straining against the toxic atmosphere. Behind him, the human fleet kept the Ravager ships busy. He was alone, but he carried the strength of Earth with him. With shaking hands, he connected his suit to the intake system. Now Tom. The counteragent flowed through his suit into the base, where the Ravagers expected another weapon. They received the purest air humanity had learned to create. Their base's lights flickered as alarms blared. The Ravagers had built themselves to survive the worst of Earth, but had never prepared for its best. They had tried to become Deathworld warriors, but had forgotten that humanity had become more than that. They had become guardians of life itself. 1 month after the battle at the Ravager base, Commander James Stone stood before the full Galactic Council. His dress uniform still felt stiff, but the medal they had pinned to it, the Council's highest honor, felt right. Not just for him, but for what it represented. The last infected world was cleared yesterday, he reported to the assembled aliens. The plague is gone. The Ravagers' artificial adaptations couldn't survive exposure to pure air, and their forces surrendered. Through the chamber's great window, he could see ships from 100 worlds. Among them were the human vessels that had saved so many lives. Their hulls still showed scars from the battles they'd fought, marks they wore with pride. We found their research files. Tom Wilson added from his place beside James. The scientist had dark circles under his eyes, but he stood tall. They spent decades studying Earth's history, trying to copy our evolution. They thought if they could survive what we survived, they'd be as strong as us. Ambassador Reel moved forward, his crystal form glowing brighter than ever. They failed to understand that Earth gave humanity more than just physical strength. Tell us, Commander, what did they miss? James smiled, remembering the final battle. They missed Earth's most important lesson. Our world didn't just teach us to survive. It taught us to overcome, to adapt, to become better than we were. And now, Ambassador Tech's gaseous form swirled with curiosity. What happens to the humans who served here? Kate Miller stepped forward. During the crisis, she had led rescue operations on 7 worlds. We're starting something new. The Human Crisis Response Division. Not just for fighting, but for helping. Earth taught us how to handle any disaster. Now we can teach others. Alex Rivera joined them, still limping slightly from his injuries on Terra Prime. We're already training teams from other worlds, teaching them how to handle extreme conditions, how to think under pressure. Not to become Deathworlders, but to be ready for whatever comes next. The council chamber hummed with approving voices. Where once they had feared humanity's deathworld nature, now they sought its true value. There is one more matter, Ambassador Reel announced. The council has made a decision. The term Deathworld for Earth will no longer be used in official documents. Instead, we propose a new classification, Cradle of Guardians. James felt his throat tighten. Around him, humans and aliens alike nodded in approval. The change was more than just words. It was recognition of what humanity had become. We've also found something interesting, Tom added, pulling up a holographic display. The worlds that were infected, they're changing. The experience has made them more resilient. Not death worlds, but stronger than before. Life there is adapting, just like we did. And the survivors? Someone asked. Kate smiled. They're different now. They don't just see us as the strong ones or the dangerous ones. They see us as teachers, protectors. They understand that strength isn't just about power. It's about how you use it. James looked around the chamber, at the faces of those who had once feared his kind. Earth tried to kill us countless times, he said. But each time, we learned. We grew. We became stronger, not to conquer, but to protect. Not to destroy, but to save. The council session ended with a new treaty being signed. The Human Crisis Response Division would become a permanent part of galactic society. Earth's lessons would be shared, not feared. As James left the chamber, he passed a group of young aliens training with human instructors. They were learning not just how to survive, but how to help others survive. The legacy of Earth's harsh lessons would live on through them. Humanity had finally found its true purpose among the stars. They weren't just survivors of a death world. They were guardians of life throughout the galaxy, and that was a legend worth becoming.